Welcome to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast. Today, our topic, no money down, investing with other people's money. And this is part 3 of a 4-part series. This part is called Wrap or Subject To.
Welcome to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast with Scott Whitwam, your blueprint to financial abundance. Settle in as we explore the mindset and methods for wealth building through real estate.
Welcome back. I'm Scott Whitwam, and today we will be discussing another little known or seldom used technique for no money down real estate investing and how we can use other people's money to leverage our real estate investments. I like talking about, these principles because if you know the principles, often you can shape the methods. Today, I'll be relating examples to single-family residences, but the same principles apply no matter whether you're doing multifamily. It doesn't really matter the asset class or classification. It can be commercial, industrial, agricultural, and so on. Because principles can be applied to any investment because they're the supporting foundation of the method. That's what I like about them. So even if the scope or documents or value class change, the mechanism for framing it builds on the principles or the foundation, just look a little bit different, but they still build on our no money down house. Today, we're going to discuss how to get a loan from a bank without ever applying or qualifying or making a down payment. Now, I do want to be clear here. We're not actually getting a loan from a bank or some government-backed lender. We're helping someone fix a life problem by stepping in and helping. But when we use this method of acquisition and put no money down, this real estate investing's unique leverage uses other people's money because somebody else has applied, qualified, and already put up the down payment. We come in, fix a problem, whatever problem they have, and the seller allows us to use their qualification and their investment, allowing their lender to carry our investment in the transaction. And I want to focus on how to use wrap financing, since it's also known as subject to or sub to financing, for brevity's sake. I will just call it wrap or wrap financing. But know that I'm referring to, both names. They're just different names for doing the same thing. When we use a wrap or wrap financing, it can be total or partial. It can also be in combination with other, with a seller carry or other type of funding. It can also be in combination with like private funding or joint venture funding. There's several options or variations of this same method that can be used. This is a great option for purchasing assets as a real estate investor, especially if you're looking for low or no money down options. You avoid financial and credit probing. You skip making large down payments. So hey, let's get into the meat of this subject and kind of get to more, boots on the ground here and see how we can utilize this strategy to grow a real estate portfolio. Okay, so the way no money down wrap financing works, it's a little more technical than other options that we've already discussed, since there's an existing lender with a first position lien and a contract with a seller for a specific ownership requirement. We have to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row. Since the title has an encumbrance, any default under the seller's existing mortgage or note could cause a foreclosure action, and we really don't want to have money invested in something and then get a foreclosure notice nailed on the door. To help us out, our investor-friendly title company is going to have to do some work for us. If you're a seasoned investor, you likely have weeded through all the title companies and found someone who is creative at closing. If you're just starting out, you need to interview some of the title companies and title agents. In one title company, you may find a title agent who knows how to do a wrap and others who either don't know how to do it or won't do it. The title company is responsible for closing the transaction. removing the seller from title, and adding you without disturbing the existing lien. They need to be able to wrap a repayment agreement and title insurance around the existing package. This is different from making a loan assignment, as most loans are unassignable. And if they are assignable, generally the lender will require the buyer to fully qualify and may require an interest adjustment, generally up. So I stay away from the assignment when possible, and work with wraps instead. Generally, if a property is encumbered by a conventional or private loan of some kind, then we can wrap it. FHA and VA loans are a little different, and I use a different strategy for purchasing these properties with no money down, and we'll discuss that in a little bit. So essentially, with wrap financing, the seller of the property is going to act as a pass-through lender and finance a portion of all of the purchase price of the property. In our case, we're looking for a deal or a seller willing to carry 100% of the purchase price. And this means you, the investor, don't have to come up with a huge down payment or secure traditional mortgage. And hopefully we can do this by covering some of our expenses or a smaller acquisition down payment. No down payment is always the best. If a seller has a lot of equity, they may be reluctant to give up all that equity to you. This is where I would step in with a wrap overlaid with a seller carryback. And then we just have to show them why delaying their equity makes sense. And, you can listen to part 2 called Seller Carryback, and we talk a little bit about how the seller carryback works and how that would work for a seller in a second position. But anytime you're asking for 100% leverage, a seller may ask you to give up something, some kind of terms. The more desperate they are, the bigger problem you're solving, and the better you are at negotiating and explaining how your offer is a win-win, the more likely you are to get them on board. When you get them on board, generally you'll see better terms and a more likelihood that you'll be offered some no money down solution. There are no doubt that there's going to be times when you just have to bite the bullet and the deal is just so good and the seller won't budge, the seller won't carry it. They will only stand for their equity being bought out. Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and do it. If the numbers work, skip zero down and get the property under contract. Then use cash, find a private investor, a JV partner, or someone who'll take that second position. As much as I like buying no money down, I like deals that pay out even more. Sometimes we have to use our own cash, but often we find an alternative. And as we get close to 100% leverage, that is really our goal. We want to get as close to that 100% leverage as we can. The big question that I get at events and webinars seem to be, why would a seller let you wrap their mortgage? Aren't they still responsible if, you as a buyer defaults? A seller is very open to this type of 100% seller financing option for many reasons. If they don't do something, they're going to default themselves. So they're looking for a way out. They look at you as a professional with deep pockets and self-assure themselves that you have lots of money and you're unlikely to default. You don't have to tell them that. They typically come to that conclusion on their own. You may be an angel with a big halo to a seller. If they had a life or job event occur, they may be desperate for your help and greatly appreciate it. If they have significant equity, they may create a small stream of income maybe. And this may be at a time when they need it the most. So you're coming in saying, hey, you got that big equity. Why don't you take it as a seller carryback? And now you're going to have monthly income every month. I'm always amazed at how many people, just $100 a month or, even $200 a month makes all the difference in their budget. The other reason the seller would go for this is the seller doesn't have to make repairs. They don't have to have showings. They don't have to wait months for a buyer. They get a quick sale. that gets the expenses out of their name, out of their budget, and maybe like lifting an anvil off their shoulders. But like all other no money down methods we use, it's important to make sure the numbers work. This is true with every property you're trying to acquire. Don't get so focused on the seller's willingness to wrap the mortgage that you give up terms and make the numbers not work. Carefully consider the deal you negotiate, and then conduct thorough due diligence. If you're just starting out as an investor, consult with a real estate investing coach. Get a second set of eyes on your deal before pulling the trigger. Make sure the second set of eyes are an investor who understands creative financing, not just Uncle Roy who buys hogs at the local auction. He may not give you the best advice. But let me get back to wrap financing and the full purchase price here. I've already discussed some of the motivating factors that make a seller want to at least be willing to wrap their mortgage or note. But since this form of purchase is not mainstream, you don't see it advertised very often. If you did, it would say something like takeover payments or seller assign the mortgage. But as a real estate broker, I've never had a seller approach me to offer this type of purchase approach. When sellers use real estate agents, they're generally hoping for retail money, to put money in their pocket at closing, to release them from all debts associated with the liability, and the real estate agent is looking for a commission. So whenever I get a wrap financing, it's because I've proposed it. Most of the time, sellers understand what I'm offering, but of course, they may have many what-if questions. And of course, they appreciate a simple explanation of the terms. Many of our sellers are not experienced in real estate transactions, including wrapping existing loans, and what it means if they are remaining, responsible for. So when you give your presentation, make your offer with wrap financing. Don't be surprised if you have to fill in some gaps. Just be very clear. What are your negotiating points when you're offering wrap financing to a seller? I think this is something that we need to be more clear as investors, about. So let's just talk about some of those. One might be, offer a short payoff, maybe 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. I know there's investors out there that are looking for the full amortization of the loan that's got, 3% interest. But if you can offer a shorter carrot, a lot of times that gives a seller reassurance. They can see light at the end of the tunnel for when, the note will be paid off and it'll clear them from it on their credit. As an investor, I want this to be really until the end of the amortization period, but shorter periods can get a seller on board. Who wouldn't like somebody to give you 28 years to pay off a mortgage at 2.75% and while they're giving up all their equity? That'd be great. But, don't lose a deal because you're being overly ambitious. I guess that's the whole point. Number 2 would be price. If the seller has equity, maybe you offer them a little bit more for a 100% carry option, even if that means, using a seller carry as a second. If you offer $175,000 cash, we'll say, but you tell the seller that they could make an extra $10,000 or $20,000 if they carry the whole purchase, that may be very enticing to them. The other thing we can offer them, number 3, is interest. You can offer a rate that is above the wrap rate. So if they got like a 2.75% interest rate, maybe you offer them 3 or 4%. It's over market rate, but it's for this carry back, but well under investor financing rates. Hard money rates can be anywhere from 10, 15 to 18%. So the lower interest rate for us, but the above market rate may be enticing to them. And you can show them how much more money they'll make with this rate that you're offering them, or how much they would make, each month to help cover their expenses. Be creative. No money down real estate investing is all about creativity to build win-wins. When deals make sense and you do get a seller on board, you create maximum leverage for yourself as an investor. So let's not forget, We can use low money down options as well if it makes sense. If a seller has equity and needs cash desperately, a small amount of cash may make this deal go through with just little down. Now, I know little down is ambiguous, but obviously $5,000 or $10,000 down on a $250,000 property is little down. I mean, even $20,000 is below 10% down on an investment that's $250,000 on this type of acquisition, which sure beats 30%, or $75,000 required by a hard money lender. Either way, I hope you get the point. Each of these deals need to be considered on its own merits. And how much available cash you have, or how much available cash your company has to contribute, obviously has to be considered in this. Here again, this is a slight tweak on doing no money down wrap financing deal. But who says the cash that you're putting into the deal has to be yours? One of the other strategies I've used when a seller needs some cash immediately is maybe to pay some, maybe they need money to pay off some other lien, HOA, attorney, who knows what they need money for. But why can't we leverage somebody else's money to do this? This is where we can use our creativity for a joint venture or private funding, or maybe your spouse's piggy bank. It doesn't matter where you get somebody else's money from, but maybe we can get their money into the deal. You wrap the first and cash out the seller's equity with somebody else's money. That sounds good to me. It still gets me a no money down transaction. The last thing I want to cover is a couple of the risks that you need to be aware of and how I address them. This will not be, a checklist of all the risks, just, probably the most notable. One, be aware that we run into issues with wrapping government-backed loans, FHA and VA. I generally come up with some other solutions for these loans, but with the right title company, you can wrap those also. Number two, most properties have a due on sale clause somewhere in their loan documents. This is also known as an acceleration clause. If the lender does an audit and finds that the owner has transferred their interest in the property, they will demand full payment, and generally it's due within 30 days. You've got to be aware of it. Number three, as part of your agreement, you want to set up payment through your title company and directly to the lien holder, not paid directly to the seller. Do not ask them to forward this to their lender, because it likely will not get forwarded. Remember, they're in a financial bind. They have some reason why we are helping them get out of a problem, and you don't want to create another problem for yourself. If title won't do it, then you make payments directly to the lender on behalf of the seller. Number four, you need to have the sellers make sure mortgage statements are going to you so you can monitor receipt of payments by the lender. This may require a limited power of attorney in some cases, in case something happens. And if you don't get a statement, you'll be able to fix that by calling the lender without needing the seller's additional help, because you'll have a limited power of attorney. Now, that's all the time we have for today's episode. I want to thank you for joining me on this episode. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. This has been Scott Whitwam. Be sure to join us on our next episode of the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast with mindsets and methods for wealth building through real estate.